Filmed in front of a live studio audience, it's the Dicebreaker podcast with your host, Matt Jarvis. Woo!
Yay! It's Friday.
It's
Hello,
Friday, baby.
welcome. We're back once again. We've made it through the week. Just about, clinging on. We're back with the Dicebreaker podcast. I am Matt Jarvis. I'm your host. I'm joined this week by two of the team. I'm joined, of course, by my wonderful compare. That's what I'm going with.
Compare
Michael Wills-Whelan.
Hello, it's me, the other gay dad.
How you doing, Wills?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on once again. I'm once again bathed
you
in
work
shadow.
here, so
Yeah, well,
I can't
you
keep
know.
you off even if I tried.
Well, you could, to be fair. I still answer to you. I still can't figure out the lighting in this room, but it's fine. I'm just going to look very dramatic for the rest of my career.
Yeah, it is always very dramatic where you film. It's just, a real kind of like noir. I feel like you should be in black and white.
There should be like
you should be smoking
neon
a cigarette.
bar signs floating past the background.
Yeah. And also joining us, of course, Alex Meehan. Hello, welcome back. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. I'm so glad you managed to escape from those wolves, Matt. We were very worried last week.
Oh, yeah.
When you weren't here.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was the wolves.
you were running from those wolves for about a week. You must have been exhausted.
Shout out to Trusty.
See, I really thought you were referencing the thing that we filmed this morning.
Yeah, no, me too. I got tripped up by that.
That was me.
I want to shout out to Trusty who says, "Hooray, Matt's back. Nothing weird happened at all whilst you weren't around, honest."
Look, I know what the team's like. I know. It's like rolling a die and just being like, is it going to be Danny DeVito this week? Is it going to be some kind of F-bomb in the voice of a beloved Disney or Star Wars character?
Maybe.
Yeah, that's a classic.
That is a classic. You don't wheel that one out, too often. That's
no.
You got to save that one up.
Is it going to be heavy euphemism? But you got that out of your system earlier this week, Will. So
disgusting behaviour.
Let's play Catacombs. Let's play.
Why does everyone say catacombs? By the way, like it's honey.
Catacombs.
Yeah, catacombs.
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 Catacombs. I don't know. It's probably just the posh, like East Anglian British part of me coming through. It's like I swap endlessly between scone and scone because
it's a scone. I think if you say scone, you're just looking for a fight.
Well, it's a scone, and then you eat it, and then it's scone.
Oh,
so.
okay. All right, Matt. What can we look forward to on this week's episode of the podcast?
What can we look forward to? I'll tell you. We don't normally do a rundown at the start, but you know what?
Well, we used to.
We used to, yeah, but look, we got structure. We'll be chatting about what we've been playing this week. Then we're going to go over the more recent news, including the winners of this year's Asdor Board Game Award, which I'm sure we'll agree with, and there will be no kind of contention there. And then we're going to chat about the new edition of Betrayal at House on the Hill that was just announced, and we're going to come up with our own ideas for some haunts that we'd like to see at Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Oh, I'm scared already.
You should be. They're terrifying haunts. And if you're in the chat watching live, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. If you are just listening on catch up, hey, thanks for joining us as well.
Yeah.
But if you want to listen live, we are live every Friday from 2 p.m. GMT. And if you are in the chat, hey, drop us a question, just say hi. And we'll pick out some of the best by the end of the show and answer them if you want us to answer something. It can be about anything you want. So chuck it on in. But let's get rolling. This week, Alex Meehan, let's kick off with you. What have you been playing? What have you been doing?
Oh, what have I been doing, Matt Jarvis?
That's the
question. That's what I just asked.
Making the best life, sort of surfing on the wave of existence. But also, I've played a game.
No,
Mr. Jarvis, I played a game. I know, shocking.
Come now.
Did you?
I played Eldritch Horror.
Ooh.
Back to that old chestnut. It's been a good few years since I touched that game because there was a period of my life where I just played it all the time, and that's quite, a feat considering how long a session of that game takes to play.
That is the thing. Every time we go back to Eldritch Horror, I forget just how long it is. Like, and it's not a bad thing because I think the scale of it is one of the best things about it. But it's really long.
We started at about 7 o'clock, and
In the
evening,
Okay.
yes.
Oh my goodness.
And we finished at 1 a.m.
I was
Oh
gonna
my
say,
God.
like, I don't know what you're expecting, but
There were like 6 of us playing.
oh my
Which is
lord.
quite a large number of people for Eldritch Horror. It goes up to 8.
Yeah,
Usually.
that's the other thing I always forget is like it's a really big game. Like 8 people is like party game size.
But it's like, I feel like it's one of
not
those
like
games where the addition of players doesn't really make much of a difference apart from the amount of time everything takes, right? Because it's basically just like,
no.
you know, playing it solo and playing it with 4 people, you still go through the same cycle each, don't you?
Yeah, the game is balanced to the number of players. It actually does it in a very clever way where obviously having more players is a good thing for the group because it means that you've got more actions to perform before the start of each Mythos phase, which is bad.
Mm-hmm.
So Eldritch Horror is a co-op game based in the Arkham Horror Files universe. I feel like I'm reading off one of my news pieces. Which it's like a big adventure kind of story style game where you're working together to kind of stop essentially the end of the world being caused by these eldritch beings. You can choose which one to kind of go up against. Some of them are harder than others. We went up against Yog-Sothoth.
Ah, yes.
A classic.
A classic, yeah. The gate and the key or something? The sleeping god? The dumb god? Something like that.
It's a big pile of meat chunks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a big homunculus style thing. And Yog-Sothoth.
Oh, Matt Jarvis.
Oh
Where's your
dear,
webcam
Matt
gone?
Jarvis's internet. I'm going to keep going.
I meant
there
to hit
he
mute
is.
so I could type on the keyboard and I hit the wrong button. I'm so sorry.
You muted
It's a
your
professional
video.
I'm sorry.
I loved it when the camera went back on and we just see that cheeky little Matt Jarvis face.
Sorry, I just hit the wrong button. I was trying to save you the clacking of my keyboard because I was about to type something
Don't
down.
type. Pay
Otherwise,
attention
I
in
don't
class.
remember by the end of the episode, like the funny things we say for the titles.
Oh,
This is the
okay. I'll
problem.
let you get on with. I'll let you get away with that one. But I'm watching you. Otherwise, it's back to the back of the class with the dunce hat on. Yeah. No. I'm trying to remember what I was going to say now. Yog-Sothoth is his whole deal is like gates.
Yeah.
So in Eldritch Horror, there are these things that appear that are like gates, and they're interdimensional gates, and they usually bring in bad monsters and stuff that you need to fight. And that's in every game, regardless of what god you play against. But Yog-Sothoth is all about them gates. And we were playing with the Secret Tome expansion, the one that includes the snake elder god. Yid, I think it's called. But it also comes with this special. It comes with this special deck of cards that you play with Yog-Sothoth, which basically creates unique gate encounters. So the core game comes with a deck of gate encounters, but then with the expansion, you've got extra special ones that are unique to Yog-Sothoth, and they usually just mean if you fail, worse things happen. And they're also connected to one of Yog-Sothoth's mysteries that you need to solve. So yeah, there were 6 of us. I started out playing as the shaman. I can't remember her name, but her whole deal is when she closes gates, she's able to teleport directly to another gate as soon as she's done it. So I was like, if I play against this guy, it makes sense to play this character. It went very badly, as Eldritch Horror often does. It went badly for me. It just felt like I like insulted a witch of some sort, and then she was like, "This one." I was cursed, like continuously, just having horrible things happen to me, which is the fun and also frustrating thing about Eldritch Horror, where just sometimes it feels like you're just getting the worst.
Was the witch played by one of the Olsen twins?
Scarlet, yeah.
Yeah.
Garlic. Yeah. No, it's an Arby's witch.
It was an
That
Arby's
is a
witch.
reference to a very specific series of YouTube videos. Anyway.
I was making reference to Beastly, the film that I have not seen, but
Oh
have watched
my
an entire Jenna Nicholson
God.
video on.
I know about that film. Yeah, I think I probably watched the same video. But that thing
Probably.
is such a product of its time.
Mm.
It is like the Twilight phenomenon mixed with Alex Pettyfer, who was extremely popular at the time, an actor who had previously been in the Alex Rider, the only film they made based on Alex Rider.
Of course.
The book
I saw that in the
Stormbreaker.
cinema. It was bad.
Awful.
Wow.
So
I used
bad.
like, and this is saying a lot for books that Wheels has read. There's a very short list, but when I was a kid, I remember reading Alex Rider.
Yeah, I loved
Yeah.
those books when I was younger. Yeah, they were cool.
Was it
But,
what's his name?
Anthony
Horowitz.
Horowitz?
Yeah.
Yes.
Who then just went on and did like Young James Bond, so the
Yeah.
circle closed itself in some ways.
He did a Sherlock at some point as well, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
what, the television series?
No, he did a book in the Sherlock
okay.
world. with
Sherlock.
Sherlock.
The
Sherlock
Sherlock
Holmes.
expanded universe.
Yeah. The SU.
Final note on Alex Pettyfer. We watched Magic Mike the other day, and he's in that film.
Really?
Yeah, we
Really?
were sat there watching it because it was recommended to us by a colleague, Chris Tapsell, who works for Eurogamer.
Have you wait? So you'd never seen Magic Mike before?
No.
Oh my
no,
god, it's
no.
so good, right?
Chris
It's so good.
Tapsell was like, "You've got to watch Magic Mike. It's like the tale of male toxic behavior being unwrapped." And we were like, "Okay." And we start watching it, and Matthew McConaughey is most Matthew McConaughey mode. Where it's like, "All right, ladies."
I'm about to get my penis out.
yeah. He is dialing it up to the max in that film, and it's kind of like, I respect this. But we were watching it, and there was the actor who, there was this character who's a young man who kind of gets involved in this stripping business, and we were like,
stripping business.
this whole stripping ordeal, and we were like, who is that? Like, I recognize him. Who the hell is that? And I was like, is that Alex Pettyfer? And we were like, we gotta look. So we looked this up, and it was him. I was like, oh my god, that's where he's gone. He's got the magic.
That's what he's doing now.
He's actually really good.
Zoe was telling me
You know?
the other day that like Channing Tatum was like, I'm not doing a third one of those films because the environment was so toxic because
Oh no!
they had to like starve themselves to get the bodies that they show off.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's like you know the like classic bodybuilder frame where it's just like they look like popping God, what's it called? Bubble wrap.
Yeah,
they look like they're made of bubble
wrap.
wrap. Yeah. The way you do that is you get really muscular and then you starve yourself so much that your body like shrink wraps over the muscles and it's just not good. It's just
Gross.
not healthy in any way
Yeah.
or shape or form. But,
I mean, like Channing Tatum was like shredded like a Ninja Turtle
yeah.
in that film.
Shredded like the antagonist of the Ninja Turtles.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, Eldritch Horror.
Where's the Magic Mike board game?
Yeah, it's true.
'Cause I feel it's just waiting.
No, Magic Mike role-playing game. That
Yeah,
works
no,
much
that's better. That's
You
better.
become
Yeah,
a
that's
male
better.
stripper.
I feel like if they did make a board game, it would be like some awful party game that's like one step above like
Completely-
the tease me dice.
Misses the point of the film, where
Yeah.
it's like, hey, maybe the culture around this isn't great
Mm.
because people keep making mistakes and falling into drug and alcohol issues. But hey, look, there's a picture of topless Channing Tatum. Just ignore everything else. No, I think I would definitely play a Matthew McConaughey type character in that if that was an RPG, because his whole deal is just, I just love how it's like, all right, I'm so into it. Like
Again, it feels like you're referencing what we filmed this morning.
every time he's on the screen, he's just loving it.
Just chewing the fat, literally.
Yeah, he's chewing. Oh, well, I mean, he's got no fat to chew.
Yeah,
but,
it's true.
anyway,
That's the point. Yeah.
enough about Matthew McConaughey's leathery body. We're gonna talk
There's
about
one for the title list, Matt.
Eldritch Horror, going out of the gate back into Eldritch Horror. Yeah, no, this particular game we played, it just everything that went wrong for me just went wrong. Like all of the tests I had to do were for stats that I was terrible at. I was like, oh great. I got a leg injury almost immediately.
Oh,
I
and
think
that
I got...
reduces movement, right? That's
Yeah,
often
it
the worst
sucks.
things in those games where you just can't move as far because it
Yes,
feels like you then just
that
burn
sucks.
actions having to get to where you want to be.
So much.
Well, whenever it triggers, you are delayed, which sucks. It means you miss a go, like, which
God,
it's just awful because then you're sat there while like 5 other people have their turn.
this is why I can't play Eldritch Horror, because I feel like that's the whole game. Just like the
But
turn
it's
happens,
not. Sometimes
something
it's
agonizing
not.
happens, and then you wait for 2 hours.
Sometimes it's not. Like I've had games of Eldritch Horror where like I've been getting, improvements on my stats, like absolutely killing it, like picking up spells, having like a great time. But this particular game of Eldritch Horror, I think our theory was last time they played it, the person who sat in the chair I sat in was also cursed. So maybe it was the position was cursed. But yeah, I got a leg injury, amnesia, and then I got actually cursed in the game, which is horrible, which is where only 6s, you can only pass with 6s.
Oh, God.
Which is absolutely awful. And I chose to die to get rid of the fact that I couldn't do anything. I chose death. I was like, get me another character. And as soon as I got that character, guess what happened?
Did I get cursed?
Yes, I did. But we actually won. It was incredible. Like
wow.
we finally did it after much hardship. Beat the others just on point.
That's what we in the Total War business would call a Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah. Here's the hilarious thing as well. My second character actually died before we could win.
Wow.
Like, I think some sort of terrible dark deed popped off, and then I just was annihilated or something like that. But I had fun. Yeah. I mean, Nathaniel Levy says this is supposed to be fun. Yes, it is kind of fun, but sort of like
there's a fun in shared misery, isn't there? Like the sort of like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening. Like everyone just like, this is so funny how it could go this bad.
I feel like this is the reason I enjoy like Mansions of Madness as well, which particularly like the first number of times you play that game, you probably lose because there's just an invisible timer, and then it's just like, well, the world ended. And you're like, oh, okay, I was just over here looking in a drawer, and
Matt, that is what it will be like.
Yeah,
when the bombs finally drop, I'll just be like, oh, where have I put my keys?
But I feel like Eldritch Horror particularly, it always makes me think of it as one of those like event games, if you know what I mean, like Twilight Imperium, like Diplomacy, like the games that you get a group together and you're probably having snacks and it's like an all-day thing, and that kind of takes away what would be like a very drawn-out experience because they lend themselves to just like sparking conversation and
oh dear. Yep. There you go. There she blows.
This is the Mr. Jarvis who was like, "Oh, I'm not going to put a wire in my house for the internet."
yeah. This is. Oh, is he back?
Is he back? I feel like there's a timer, Matt, where it's like.
Did you get any of that?
We got some of it. If your internet will last like up to a point, and then it's like, nah, you're out, son. You've used up your allowance. Yeah, we've got the mega delay now as well, which is good.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, you were saying about how it's like an event game and you get everyone together and you have snacks and stuff like that. And boy, it was an event game because that night I had beige dinner.
Ooh,
nice.
Yeah, I love beige.
Pile of carbs.
I love a bit of beige. Yeah. For those,
so it's like a rate my plate section we're introducing to the podcast.
For the US members of the audience, I feel like beige is a UK thing.
Yeah, I think like when Americans make memes about British food, and then that's what we're referring to. Like
Yeah.
What you see people taking the mick out of us for our food is. That's the kind of dinner that Meehan is referring to.
Yeah, we got the corn nugs.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the wedges.
Yeah.
We got the beets.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is
a
that
bit
it?
and a bit of mayo, you know, to sort of spice it
doesn't
up.
sound great, to be honest.
Spice it up with mayo.
It's beige. What do you expect?
Mm.
Like it's what I had in my freezer, you know. But I was like, this is a special time.
Mm-hmm.
We're playing Eldritch Horror beige.
Yeah.
But no, it was. You know what? As much as that game is difficult and it does hate you sometimes, it is really good fun and it is hilarious to kind of just be like, oh no, here's another mishap, or just the kind of like wild things that can happen. Just like you go to a city and something really good happens to you. You're like, oh, I got blessed. Blessed is amazing. Blessed is the best thing that can happen to you in that game. And then the next minute, you're like just on a sea space, and then suddenly your leg is like broken, or you've forgotten who you are, or something like that.
Good.
Yeah.
What's the card where you form like a pact? Is it called like Dark Pact or something like that? And then later on you just flip it. I always like that because it's slightly.
So
It's like, yeah, they came collect. It's like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, the group I was playing with were serial kind of like debtors, so they would just constantly be taking debt cards, which you can do when you want to acquire assets, but you haven't rolled enough dice to get the thing you want. So they were like immediately taking debts. In fact, they reveled in it, and I was sat here going, "This isn't going to end well." And I was the one who played safely, and it was me getting all of the.
Oh.
They were fine.
No, that's always the way, though, isn't it? It's like you'll be sat there in your hubris, like, well, I've been playing very safely, so I'll be fine. And then
the game's like, kill me. The debts are good fun because at some point you do need to they will come and collect, and sometimes it's as simple as you can do a skill check to try and overcome them, and then nothing bad happens. Other time you just get beaten up, and that's it, and you're like, oh, I'm injured. The dark packs are great. They're the ones that you either just have to take because of an event you do, or you can choose to take them to kind of improve like a situation or something like that. It's like a risk reward thing. But there is one of them that when it pops off, you just become devoured. And that means you and everything you have is just eaten. Which means that usually when you die, you drop all your stuff so someone can come and pick it up. But with that particular card, which I've actually seen it appear before, you just get eaten. And there's another one which did actually pop off in our game, which is you have to choose someone else to be devoured. You can't be you have to pick another investigator.
You're not going to make any friends with that one, are you?
Nah. So yeah, Eldritch Horror, it was really long, really mean, but really good fun. I love that game a lot. It's great. So
just listening to you describe it, I'm like, I should play Eldritch Horror again. I
One
should just
day
get some friends
really,
round.
that was your thought process after hearing that.
It's great.
I love like me. I love Eldritch Horror. I love it for the way it does capture the sense of just desperate scrambling against a force that is beyond your tiny human abilities.
Existence. Yeah.
You've
got to embrace the masochism. Wheels. You gotta take it all in and be like, I'm ready to be punished.
It actually manages to capture that cosmic horror thing of
you are,
this is just a scale beyond you, because even in Mansions of Madness you get some of that, but normally it's oh, a weird snake thing appears, shoot it in the face with a gun. Whereas Eldritch Horror at least has an element of you're running around and closing portals, but actually at some point if the things appear, they're very hard to stop.
You can't. Go on, Will.
I would say for anyone watching on YouTube. No, actually, here's a better way of saying it. If you're not watching this on YouTube, if you're maybe listening to this in post, or if you haven't caught one of our live streams before, We do them Friday every 2 p.m. every Friday on GMT. You are really missing out on some fantastic Matt Jarvis freeze frames. Because every now and again the feed will just cut out and it's just Matt going.
I'm actually like the
stuff.
feed's fine. I'm just stopping. It's just my, I'm sorry for
ventriloquism skills.
Yeah, Matt
I'm
Jarvis.
sorry for the technical hiccups because it's very frustrating. I am fixing them. We moved into a new house a few weeks ago, and we're getting things together. Let's say.
Matt, it's really easy. You just drill a hole through your floor, and then put the wire through it.
Simple. Well, first of all, we had to stop the water pipes exploding. That was kind of like first thing on the list.
You were already in that area then.
I feel like Matt Jarvis is playing his own game of editorial here. Like you have to draw the plumbing card and see what happens.
At points, it feels like I'm doing the Morecambe and Weiss sketch of having to answer the questions before they're asked.
I would.
Weiss, 2 Ronnies.
I would
Correct
love
myself.
to. Because everyone's gonna know what 2 Ronnies are here. I would love to play editorial with you someday, Matt Jarvis. That would be a wonderful thing. I'm sure Liv would be on board, and we can drag wheels in.
Yeah, I think at some point I'm just gonna with a lot of things. I'm gonna lose the numbers game.
Yep. And we'll get some snacks, get some drinks, and
make sure they're all beige.
Get ready. Yeah, make a beige.
Nothing
like
captures like existential dread and true horror than a beige dinner.
Can you imagine like us having a big plate in the middle of this massive table, and piled on top of it, it's just like corn nugget. There are those dinosaur. You can buy the corn dinosaurs.
Other dinosaurs are available.
Other dinosaurs are available.
Dinosaurs,
yeah,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
The little fake drumsticks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
are these all just different shaped nuggets? Is that what we're going for?
Yeah, that's a beige dinner, right? It's some combination of
you've not said
bread
a
and
single
protein.
Pastry. There should be like sausage rolls. There should be
we'll chuck some corn sausage rolls on there, baby.
Yeah,
I don't care. And then I'll be sat there with my monocle on, and like a big wig and a poofy dress.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, Mr. Whelan.
Mr. Jarvis, would you please pass me one of the turkey twizzlers?
Like, yes.
Do fetch me one of those bare slices of ham.
It will be a soiree. It'll be great. Anyway, other than that, I've been. I played some Hades, which was great. Playing that with some friends because I can't play it with just me. Because if I play that game too long, I get something called the crab hands.
Yeah.
Which is where I'm like so intense, like intensely concentrated on the screen, that my hands cramp into themselves on the controller and I'm physically in pain. And I have to be like, please take this off me. Whereas when you're playing with someone else, you take turns. So it gives your hands a rest. You don't get the crab hands. So, that was good. And, I watched that Inventing Anna thing. That was fun.
Oh, yeah, what was that? I've seen that.
Oh,
advertised. I don't know what it is.
Trash.
Good.
It's on Netflix. It's about this woman who pretended to be a German heiress. And then she stole loads of money from hotels and stuff. And it is like, I don't know, it's just good trash. Like, there are so many scenes of the main characters and their kind of friends just like hanging out and like in rich people places. And the music is like rap, like hip hop rap music that is so on the point of like, hey, I've got my money. Look at all of my money. You know,
I get that. So for a Dicebreaker Plus vid, we did like a trash talk, me, Matt, and Liv, and we were talking about Selling Sunset. And like every single song, it's like, you know that Mitch and Webb sketch where they're like, all right, we need a song for this advert. We've got some dogs and they're out and we don't know who let them out. But the question is, who let the dogs out? Have you got any ideas? It's like every single one they've gone through that thought process of just like, I'm a boss woman and I've got some cash.
Yeah.
It's
So-
all like
Just
stock,
explicitly
like
saying
stock
that.
music.
It's so bad. Oh god.
Yeah. So I was just enjoying that. So there you go. No, there's also a very odd plot involving one of the main characters, and she's pregnant throughout the thing, and they're trying to like make the whole is the scamming woman gonna go to jail alongside this woman having a baby, and it's very like this was a choice, like a narrative choice. I don't quite know why, but anyway, that's what I've been doing, Mr. Jarvis. There you go. That's a very roundabout way. We've gone through the dimensions of Magic Mike, Eldritch Horror, and Selling Sunset. We've made it here.
If there's one thing I'll say is whenever you're in charge of what we've been playing recently, you just never know where you're going to end up.
Yeah, you never know. Oh, we also went in the beige dimension.
We
Which
did.
was
We
my
did
favourite.
go to the beige
Beige dimension. Yeah.
Britain.
Yeah, Britain.
You know what? I'm gonna shake things up, and I'm gonna go next. I normally go last, but I'm sticking myself in here.
I'm pretty sure I always go last, but all right, yeah.
Presumptuous.
It's not true, because I've not played loads this week. I continue to paint Lord of the Rings models, so I've been playing Dark Souls 3 with my wife and a friend. And
my favourite Dark Souls game.
It's really good. I always forget how good it is.
Yeah.
But when we've been like waiting for like my friend to get through parts that you have to do solo stuff like that, I've just been slowly painting the Lord of the Rings models that I painted on stream the other day. So I've done a cave troll, I've done Boromir, I've done Gandalf.
Oh, my favourite character, a cave troll.
They have a
love
cave
that
troll, and now so do I.
Who's
It's
your
been
favourite
just
Lord of the
really
Rings
nice
character?
to.
Mine's the pile of bones that they accidentally kick over.
It's been nice just to paint stuff again, because for a while, particularly while we were moving, all of my stuff was packed up and I kind of fell out of it. And it's been nice to just paint with no kind of pressure, just relatively simple models as well, because you know what they look like from the films, because they're based on the film characters. So...
They look exactly like they look. It's lifelike.
Yeah,
it's like they've taken Orlando Bloom and they've made him very small.
They put him in that machine from Willy Wonka.
They're not. So they're Games Workshop models, and they're from a boxed game called Battle in Balin's Tomb. So they're not. They're obviously not up to the same kind of qualities you'd see in the main Lord of the Rings, like Warhammer, but they're pretty decent for what they are. You know, they fill the role of me going, I want to paint something. Here's something really familiar. Done.
Do you apply the same kind of judgment to the screenshots included on the box of the game, Mr. Jarvis?
It's not great.
You mean
it
the
looks like a game
grainy
that
sort of
been released in 2001 alongside the original film.
Yeah, they look like they've
been moved on a long way.
They look like they've been taken from a like DVD, a fake DVD copy.
That
was
like the Camp Rock DVD quiz game, you know.
Lord of the Rings seen it,
exactly.
with miniatures.
That's essentially what it looks like. But maybe.
So yeah, I've been painting those. I've got a copy of Blood Bowl Season 2 that I'm looking to crack into next. That's next on my list because I just want to play more Blood Bowl. I wrote a piece on the site a few weeks ago where I was playing Blood Bowl 2 on the PC. And I just want to play the new edition because I really like Blood Bowl. I think it is easily my favourite Games Workshop thing.
You should bring it into the office, and I reckon we should do a little Let's Play maybe.
Yeah, we should do it. We should do Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl's really good. Speaking like it's similar to Eldritch Horror in the way of like even when you're failing, it's very entertaining.
Yeah,
like so the winning isn't the thing.
Blood Bowl is uniquely good at that as well because you're both failing against each other. So it's just like it's like who can fail the least rather than who can do the best, you know?
Yeah, and I think because like I wrote about this on the site, but like things like Warhammer, you know, or even D&D, like you swing to hit, and if you miss, it just kind of is a bit of a like, well, I'll wait till next turn. Whereas with Blood Bowl, almost always something happens. Yeah. It's like if you push yourself to go those extra few squares, you can slip over and then drop the ball, and the ball bounces away, and the ball bounces a random direction, and someone might pick it up. And even picking up the ball is a roll. So you can just be in the middle of the side of the field by yourself, like no pressure on you, and just absolutely like butterfingers it and just like send it spiraling off in another direction. It is ridiculous. It's like a slapstick comedy tied into this bizarre like orcs and humans and rats sports game.
Carry on Blood Bowl.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more of that because I just love Blood Bowl.
Did you know that Alex Meehan has seen every single Carry On film?
I'm not.
I saw this conversation happening in the Slack because I wasn't watching the stream at the time. Let's not go into the Carry On films. We'll be here forever. We've only got an hour and a half.
Wheels and Liv are just making up stuff about me trying to tarnish my character.
We're gonna get sued for libel. Is what's gonna
happen. Take you to court.
There is like 60s and 70s comedies are like in the realm of things I can associate with Alex Meehan.
Thank you. That is why.
Is
where my original statement came from, and maybe it was a little over exaggerated.
Can you imagine being in that courthouse though, like with that case happening? The prosecution just being like, so. Miss Meehan, how exactly which Carry On films have you watched? Carry On Up the Khyber? Carry On Campaign?
Carry On Screaming, I've heard is a good one, Meehan. From you.
Matthew Jarvis, anything else?
Yes, in fact, you know that there is something else because yesterday we played Brindlewood Bay.
Oh, good. I thought we were getting on to something else. I was like,
no. We'll leave the rap anime this week. So Brindlewood Bay.
Thank God I've been spared.
Blessings.
Bless his mic. It's very funny. We started playing Brindlewood Bay with yourself and a friend and Chase of the site also, which we only played short session because we made our characters as well. So it was kind of like a general kind of learn the ropes, make our characters and dive in as well. But I really enjoyed what we played so far. For those who don't know, Brindlewood Bay is like an indie RPG. Gosh, I forget the designer's name. Is it Jason Cordova? Apologies to whoever the designer is. I thought I remembered your name and I didn't, but Brindlewood Bay, you'll find it. But it's essentially, for those in the US, it's like Golden Girls. For us here in the UK, it's I think like Miss Marple, that kind of thing. So you're a group of like older women, kind of like in a book club, basically, or you're all fans of a particular book series that is essentially like Miss Marple or Agatha Christie stories.
It is Jason Cordova, by the way. You were correct.
Cordova, thank you. And you then explore mysteries in the town of Brindlewood Bay itself. So, like, you are a group of like fans of a book series who then go and investigate actual mysteries, and some of those mysteries may have a kind of supernatural twist to them, but they don't necessarily have to. And one of the really neat things, it's like a very simple RPG. You kind of have like I think 4 or 5 main stats. You roll 2d6, add them, simple as that. Other things you have are basically for flavor mostly. You could have some specific moves inspired by famous TV characters like Dale Cooper or Magnum PI or so on. But other things just add, like, you have a cozy activity that can be knitting or coin collecting or gardening. And it has a mechanical purpose in that when you are doing that activity, you can like gain some beneficial effects. But most of the stuff around it is just to pad out these characters in the world they occupy. But one of the really neat things is this mystery. So me and you were GMing us, and you're obviously taking us through this mystery. We're playing a mystery based on the kind of the Great British Bake Off or a Great British Bake Off alike competition. But there's not a set solution or outcome to the mystery. Instead, you gather clues. I think they're called void clues. They're kind of tracked, and you roll to get them. Oh, you're shaking your head. It's something else.
There are clues and there are void clues. They're two separate things.
Come now.
Like void clues are the more supernatural ones, right?
Yeah,
They're, like,
they're the
wider.
ones related to the overall sort of weird plot of what's going on with
That's it.
Brindlewood, whereas clues are more like general sort of to do with the specific mystery that you're investigating.
That's
Carry
it, thank
on!
you. Yeah, so you gather those, and then basically when your group has decided that they have enough to try and solve the mystery, you present a solution that you collaboratively agree on, and then you roll and you add extra points depending on how many clues you've gathered. And the outcome of the roll then decides whether you're correct, whether you're partially
really
correct,
love
but
this
there's a
system.
complication, or you're incorrect, and then the GM can take over and kind of explain what the actual solution was.
I think it's
And I
so
think the
smart.
idea of not having a predetermined outcome for a mystery is such a fantastic idea, because it means that even the GM, isn't forced to kind of rail around down a particular route or shape things around one fixed outcome. Everything kind of makes a difference.
It also just like
and it's
it
a more
takes,
collaborative feel that way.
It takes so much pressure off of the preparation for it as well, because I've played a lot of like mystery solving RPGs, and the amount of prep they take when you've actually got like a predetermined mystery, because you actually have to turn into like a Midsummer Murders writer for a day, and it's just like intense. But just to have that be like a mystery that you're all collaboratively solving, even though the GM is sort of in control, like it's such a clever idea. I really want to play Brindlewood Bay. I'm really pumped about it.
Well, we can always draft you in. We've technically not really started.
No, it's fine.
But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm looking forward to seeing what we come up with together, and also what you have in store, Meehan, as the GM.
Yeah,
because it's been very entertaining so far.
It's been a long time since I've like GM'd anything, and remembering how to do that it's a challenge. Like, you initially start doing it and you're like, wait, I'm leading this, I've got to take the reins, as it were, but also make sure that my players have their opportunity to do their thing and contribute, but also I've got to sometimes prompt them or provide scenarios where they can interact and provide their own input, etc. When I first started doing it, I was like, but then the more you do it, like, the easier it gets. Like, you slip back into that kind of role. It's just a very, very different role from being a player. But there you go. Yeah, I'm looking forward to GMing further and seeing what happens to 3 elderly women competing in a bake-off competition where something may or may not happen.
Yeah, it's cool. And I really like in general mystery RPGs. So I've spoken about Trail of Cthulhu before, and that's more traditional, I suppose, in that there is like a certain solution most of the time, and you roll to get clues towards that one path. But I think RPGs dealing with mysteries, we had a piece on the site actually a while ago, I think, from Charing Business, that was really good about this. I mentioned Brindlewood Bay, in fact. So yeah, go and check that out if you haven't read it already. That's all I've been playing, which is to say, basically just Brindlewood Bay, and then I played a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh as well. I continue to be bad at Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yep.
I still have a terrible win-loss ratio.
That'll be on your gravestone, Matt Jarvis. I continue to be terrible at Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, just like plant me under a massive blue eyes white dragon. In the same way that people have like rugs.
You know what? I'm sick of this. They really made Blue Eyes White Dragon seem like such a good card in the cartoon. It's crap.
I think the problem is they made it a popular thing in the show, right? So then everyone wanted it, so they printed a lot of it. But because they then had to print a lot of it, you can't have everyone with like a super powerful
card,
I mean, because it just throws the balance out of whack. So
for me, it's all about Karibo anyway. So
yeah, we all know that. We
Karibo, best card.
Right. At the moment, I'm a fan of Utopia C39. A niche choice, I know you'll agree, but I'm enjoying that deck. It's basically a robot that you attach stuff to.
Got it.
But the downside is if you don't get that robot out, you basically end up unable to do anything, because most of the cards are like equip this to this one specific card. It's like, well, I can't do that. So
I tell you what, if this 1 out of 40 chance card comes up, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why you just build your deck around like 5 pot of greeds.
Yeah.
Or card draws.
Hello,
anyway,
it's me,
Wills.
I've been playing games, I promise. I played Catacombs technically last week, but I wasn't on the podcast last week. Because I was editing the Catacombs last week. But the Catacombs Let's Play that we did, if you haven't watched it already, it's hilarious. Please go watch it. It's fantastic. Let's Plays are always like a little bit trickier to sell on YouTube, I think, but go give them a go because they're very funny. We played like I tried to give Liv like a bit of an introduction dungeon, and I think I made it a little bit too easy by the end. Like Liv was full of hubris, and was just like, you know what? Give me the hardest boss. We've been playing with the easiest boss at the end, but give me the hardest one instead. And I was like, okay. So if you want to see how that goes, then click on the link. But Catacombs, for those who aren't aware, is like, it's like if you took classic board game Crokinole, one of the greatest games ever made, and turned it into like a D&D style dungeon crawl, and it's just fantastic. Like you can technically have a team of players on like the hero side, so you can have like one person controlling each puck, or you can just have it 1v1, so like one person controls all the heroes and one person controls all the monsters. So I was in like the sort of dungeon master role, and it's just so good. Like there is just like a whimsy about the game. Like there are so many things they were just like, we're gonna do this because it's fun. Like we don't care how balanced it is. So like there's for example, there's a dragon called Rolled, who the way that they attack things is you turn it on its side and you have to like roll it onto another piece, and if it lands on top of another piece, it eats it. It's just fantastic. There's a giant gelatinous cube that is literally just like a block of wood that you flick around. It's just a great game. If you haven't played Catacombs yet, I heartily recommend it. I think that's the second video we've had it featured in now. But yeah, I've been playing that. I've also been building some kill team models with Liv, because we're planning to play that on the channel at some point. I spent a significant portion of yesterday's stream shouting about how angry that shaped based measurement system they made for that game.
Oh god, that's where that's from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that thing is so like, how did that make it? How did anyone come up with that in the first place? And then how did it make it past any kind of human reading those instructions?
That was absolutely like, oh, we'll fix this before we put it out. And then it never happened. But it's just like the most infuriating thing is like they've got these predetermined measurements. They've got 1 inch, 2 inch, 4 inch, and 6 inch, I think. And it's like a 1 inch is a triangle, a 2 inch is a circle, a 4 inch is, I don't know, it's just so stupid. No, yeah, 3 inches, sorry, is a square. It's like, why didn't you just make them the shapes that have that many sides? It's just so obvious. But yeah, so that made me very angry. But that's gonna be good, hopefully. I've also been reading Frostgrave. I've been reading the manual for it because I'm prepping to finally play a game of it at some point. I need to like get Liv on board, I think, because I don't know where she's at, but she was definitely interested.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's mainly all the things I've been playing this week. However, I have been watching some television, which is pretty rare for me, to be honest.
My goodness.
We were looking for something new to watch because we've caught up on Love is Blind now. So Love is Blind is, yeah, we're up to date on that. It's just fantastic, by the way. Watch Love is Blind. But we were looking for someone a little bit spooky. So we tried watching Lovecraft County. Which is it's on Now TV for us, but it was a HBO thing. Which is essentially, the idea is like it's I think it's like 50s America, and it's like black characters in a very, very racist America. But then the sort of, oh hello Rosie. But then the twist is that it is also like Lovecraft is like a thing that exists in this world. So like not just the fact that, you know, Lovecraftian horrors and stuff like that exist, but also the author Lovecraft is a real person who put out books in this world as well. So you get this weird thing where it's like they're referencing Lovecraft, but the stuff that Lovecraft is referencing is also in the real world. And it's like it's like a really cool concept because Lovecraft famously was an incredibly racist man. So having the sort of titular character, the like protagonist of this story be the, I know, I can hear her too.
Oh,
Rosie.
Yeah.
What's the matter?
crying.
Shut out the lounge. I think she's been
Oh, punished.
Come here then. Where is he? Come here. Come here. She's just gonna scream in the background. It's fine. Yeah. So like, so I was watching that, and like the first episode is fantastic. Like really, really good. We were like, yeah, I'm pumped for this. And it got like a little bit schlocky at the end because you got like some not amazing CGI on the monsters.
Yeah, that was my bigger. And it's always the thing I have with like horror stuff is it's great until you actually see the thing, and then it's like, oh, that just looks.
But then we watched episode 2,
dear.
and it goes so completely off the rails and not in a good way. Like it makes absolutely no sense. I'm like, what is happening? It goes from like this really interesting like social commentary mixed with like Lovecraftian horror to just like, whoa, wacky wizards, woohoo! And it's like, what's happened? What? This is not the same TV show. And I saw in Rosie, please stop. I saw in the credits, it was like, I can't remember if they're like producers or directors or whatever, but you had Peele and Abrams, and I was like, it's definitely like episode 1 was Peele, episode 2 was Abrams, J.J. Abrams, in case you're wondering. But yeah, so that wasn't great. So we kind of stopped watching that halfway through episode 2. Rosie, please.
Do you want to get up and go and see her? Because I don't think she's gonna stop.
I don't think she is. Although she's now licking herself, so that's
okay.
Good. But then we instead, and this was a recommendation from Aoife, I think, we started watching Archive 81 on Netflix. And again, we've only watched one episode, so it could all go downhill, but that was really, really good. Premise is the main character is like a someone who does digital restoration on sort of like VHS tapes.
Oh, that's cool. Right, Rosie, I think you need to get up and go and see her.
I might have to go put her in the bedroom.
I think you have to.
If this is the last thing you've done, we can move on to news while you're sorting.
It's all right. The cavalry has arrived. That's fine. Thank you, Zoe. He is like a digital restoration for VHS tapes, stuff like that. He works in like a museum of moving pictures or something like that in New York. And he gets basically like this contract proposed to him by this like big shady evil company who are like, we need you to like fix these tapes that were burnt down in a building fire like in the 90s. But for the duration of it, you need to go to this secret compound where you can't talk to anyone because it's very secretive. And it's just like this very like brutalist building that he has to live in. It's very oppressive, and there's like weird stuff happening on the tapes, and it's good. It's a really good premise. So I'm hoping that the show is as good as the sort of the build up. But yeah, that is what I have been doing this week.
Excellent stuff.
A cool 57 minutes.
That is a cool 57 minutes. Let's move on to this week's haul of news, which is actually quite a short haul of news, because I figured we'd probably chat quite a bit about these bits because Alex Meehan today, or at least very recently enough, maybe yesterday, but today is when we wrote the story, the As Door Awards were announced. Would you like to run us through the winners of this year's As Doors?
You know what you're doing, Matt Jarvis. You're poking the hornets now, see it? You're poking it. Grinning while you're waiting for me to buzz out. Yeah. So the As Door winner of Game of the Year is Seven Wonders Architects.
I thought Seven Wonders Architects was quite fun.
But
you're welcome.
Game of the Year, Will.
You're welcome to think what you want, Will.
It's absolutely not a Game of the Year, no.
For a little bit of context for those who are wondering what the As Door is. So as Germany has the Spiel des Jahres, which is like, literally means Game of the Year, and it's probably the biggest award in board games. The As Door is maybe the second kind of most prestigious. So it is French. It means Golden Ace, I believe. It's been running quite a while. And it takes a similar form in that it generally awards a family-ish game, and then it has like an expert category as well.
Yeah. By family, they mean, in this regard, rubbish.
I don't think it's bad. It's fair to say that it's, like, maybe not Game of the Year material. I think it's unfair to say it's bad. I think
You
it's a good
can
game.
read more about my opinions on the game on a article I wrote for Dicebreaker.com, where I just think that it's just a poor like it should not be connected to Seven Wonders, because Seven Wonders is an amazing game, and Seven Wonders Architects misunderstands exactly what makes Seven Wonders good. By getting rid of those drafting mechanics and just putting these much simpler and worse ones in there, it is lesser for it.
I'd say that. So the other nominations were Happy City, which I have played and I wrote about for the website, which it's good, but it's not groundbreaking in any way. It's just like a fun card game. You know, it's absolute. It's the definition of the word solid, for better and worse. But I enjoyed it, but I would never like put it in a category for one of the best games of the year. And then Cartaventura Laza, which I'm not familiar with.
Here, right, I'm gonna just sort of go off on a very small one. Knuckle down. Bums in seats. What really annoys me about these award scenarios is because they're like, oh, the game of the year needs to be this game. It needs to be a family-friendly beginner game that everyone can play. They limit themselves by what they can pick.
Yeah.
Because you can't guarantee that a good game, you know, of that kind is going to come out that year, which means that they have to pick something like bloody Seven Wonders Architects.
What?
Because they're like, oh, what other family games have come out this year? Maybe this one. I mean, I granted, like, I have to think about so many games that come out that I often don't actually know what's come out last year. But, like, because they have to have the game of the year being this beginner board game thing, they can't pick a game that actually does deserve that title.
I think it's literally just a branding problem. Like, and it's the same with the Spiel des Jahres, where it's like, the Spiel des Jahres should just be called the Spiel des Jahres Family Award, and the Asdor should just be called the Asdor Family Award, and then keep your expert category as well. You know,
what you do is you get rid of the categories. I think you should get rid of the categories altogether and just have one game with bloody year, and then maybe have a children's game or something. I just think, or maybe you have game of the year. Specifically a family game, specifically a children's game. Because in my opinion, and this might just be my hobbyist, like, niche opinion, but in my opinion, the best kind of games aren't the ones necessarily specifically designed to be for families. Like, you know, and I also think now that tabletop gaming is much more popular and more accessible, I don't think they need to do that. They used to do it, and they still do it because they're like, we want these to be accessible. Therefore, we want the Spiel des Jahres, the Asdor to be something that your mum could play or whatever. But, like, now, loads of different people are playing board games now. Loads of people know what Root is, for example. Root, one of the most difficult games that you can learn to play. But if you, in the Spiel des Jahres and the Asdor world, Root wouldn't get Game of the Year. Because it's not a family game. It would get expert maybe, which is fine, but it's not like, when you say game of the year, mean game of the year, don't mean family game of the year.
I think this is the best example of this, right, is Wingspan won the Kennish Spiel des Jahres in 2019. So that's the expert game of the year. And it's now sold over 1 million copies. So it's clearly not limited to just a tight hobbyist kind of audience. And I don't know if we discussed this at the time. We've discussed it here and there anyway. Like, I think there's some debate over how complex Wingspan really is. It is certainly a step above something like Seven Wonders Architect or Micro Macro Crime City, which I think won the Asdor last year.
Yeah.
But again, that was like you can see there's an innovation in that game that feels like that deserved it. And before that, I think you've written here Oriflamme, which again, like a really good game, does something new. I think I can easily kind of see where that fits in there. But yeah, Seven Wonders Architects is an odd one. I just think you're right. It's like it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I think it's caused by the hobby growing and those lines blurring between what is quote unquote like a hobby game versus what is now mainstream. But it's really hard to say, well, Wingspan is an expert game of the year when it clearly
It's
has
not the
gone
same
far
as
beyond that. And
yeah, it's not the same as saying game of the year. Like when you use that phrase, you're inevitably there are connotations attached to it, which is like this is the best game that came out that year.
Best of the best kind of thing.
Yeah. And instead, because of these limitations they put on this award, they have to give it to something like Pictures that, God, remember how angry you were?
I think that was 2020
like,
this year.
Yeah.
I think, look, say what you want about Seven Wonders Architects. It's better than bloody Pictures.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah. But the children's game, if you're interested.
Bubble Stories.
Bubble Stories. Matthew Dunstan's a great designer. Matthew
Cute
Dunstan's made
name.
some really good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. The new Insider Award, which I do like the addition of, which is essentially what I think they should try and do to solve this problem, which is like, oh, it's not an expert game, it's not a beginner game, it's like an in-between, which I kind of enjoy the addition of, although I would prefer it if they just allowed more games to be named Game of the Year. Living Forest one, which I've not played and not heard of really, but okay.
Yeah, I saw that Old Tree is nominated, which I have a copy of and want to play because it seems really interesting, and it's from the same publisher that did Oriflamme, which I like a lot. I've seen it compared to, it's kind of like almost a sandbox kind of medieval fantasy game.
Okay, cool.
But apparently with a sense of humor that has been likened to Monty Python and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
cool.
I'm really intrigued to play it and see how that plays out. But Living Forest, I'm not familiar with.
No. And the final insult.
I knew this was coming.
These people are spitting on me.
You're the only one spitting here, Meehan.
Spitting venom.
I think the Seven Wonders is a slight, but this is a personal insult.
This is a personal. The judge panel of the ASDO are personally insulting me with this choice.
They were like, "How can we needle Alex Meehan of Dicebreaker specifically with our pick?"
The expert game, according to ASDO, is Dune Imperium, not Lost Ruins of Arnak, which is the best game.
Oh, they nominated that though, so that's nice.
Yeah, they did, and it should have won because it's Lost Ruins of Arnak. You know, one of the best games of 2021. Technically, the end of 2020, but 2021. And they chose Dune Imperium, which Direwolf won't send me a copy.
We do have a review on the site if folks are interested in Dune Imperium, and it was given like a warm but cooled verdict.
It's not
in that it's like
right.
it's a perfectly fine deck builder. Is kind of the outcome.
I think they were bribed by Timothée Chalamet.
You think they were bribed by Timothée
with all that
Chalamet?
spice?
Yeah, they were.
Wow,
they were.
I didn't know.
They've got bright blue eyes.
Yeah, he said, please
blue eyes.
Make sure that Dune Imperium wins the Expert Game Award. That will really get Alex Meehan.
Wait, sorry, you're doing Timothée Chalamet?
It's Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah.
It's Timothée Chalamet played by Werner Herzog in this Dune film. I've not seen it yet. Incredible.
Yeah, so there you go. I'm mad. That's Meehan's mad segment over.
But there you go.
I love you, Lost Ruins of Arnak. Don't worry.
Those are the best games of the year according to the ASDO. So there you have it. Also on the site, before we move on to the next one, which will lead into this week's segment, Meehan, you and Chase wrote a list of Pokemon RPGs you should play if you're enjoying Pokemon Arceus or Arceus or we had this discussion the other way. Apparently it's Arceus now, but it used to be Arceus and they changed it.
Ignore Nintendo, they're cowards. They're trying to control us.
They're trying
Arceus. Arceus. Yeah, you should go and check that out. Like I say, Chase and me and put it together. There's some really good picks on there. There's Animon's Story, which we previously played on the channel. I say we. I didn't play it. The rest of them did. But it seemed very fun.
Rest of
I
them.
did, yeah. I've also, you spoke to Cole Worley about Ark. Speaking of arse, Ark's
My new game, Arse.
Arse, conflict, and
It's got to have
something
two
in
words.
the
Collapse and
toilet,
conflict
I
in the
don't know.
void, I think, or conflict and collapse in the void, something like that.
Yeah,
Conflict and
conflict
collapse,
and
there you
collapse.
go.
Conflict and collapse in the void arcs. Yeah. I spoke to Cole. Cole, it was great. Yeah, lovely conversation we had.
Nice man.
Yeah, there was snow day, so his kids were. So we had some fun little interactions. But no, it was you know what? That designer, all he wants to do is talk about his games. Like it was great. I mean, considering like I'm basically a massive fan of Root, and I'm like, you've made my favorite game of all time. I was trying to control myself and not be a weird fan. But no, we spoke a lot about Arcs. It sounds incredibly exciting. There is a news story that you can read right now about basically how big this game is going to be. It's just enormous. It's like they just they've let Cole off the reins.
I think at one point Cole is going to reach critical mass and is going to make a game that never ends.
Yeah,
well, Oath's already really big. That's kind of the wild thing, and like this sounds like it's that, but in a completely different direction, like sci-fi.
They've got Carl Ferrin chained to a desk drawing little dudes.
Yeah. We spoke, so there will be an article coming sometime next week, however fast I can work on it, giving like a full overview of what Cole's told me about art, and essentially we know a lot about what the game is now and what it entails and what you can look forward to, and it sounds very exciting. So we're pumped because we like Cole Verley's games, and we want to play Arcs now. So we're gonna have to try and wrangle a copy.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I loved Oath, and Arc sounds really something. There's a lot going on in that game. It's again just like very ambitious. It's very cool. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Chase Carter, our wonderful news reporter, who we appreciate very much. He spoke with Martin Takaichi from Free League, who designed Tales from the Loop, the board game, the adaptation of Tales from the Loop, the role-playing game, the adaptation of Tales from the Loop, the art book by Simon Stallenhag.
Also known as Tales from the Loop, the upcoming TV show.
It's out,
obviously,
right? Out. TV show.
Stallenhag's art books have spun out into this massive kind of Loopiverse of games and series and so on.
It's his books, and it's the book, the art book that spawned. God, it's your favorite game, Ian. It's not your favorite game, but it's one of your favorite games.
Are you thinking of Scythe?
Thank you very much. I couldn't remember that word for the life of me, but yeah.
I mean, my favorite game is Root, which I said literally about a minute ago.
Anyway, Chase spoke with Martin about adapting Tales from the Loop into a board game. It was a really interesting conversation that veered into discussing growing up in Sweden in the 80s and stuff like that. And like basically making sure that game was more than just like we took the RPG and slapped the words "the board game" after it, like making it a board game worth playing in itself. And it's really interesting. Tales from the Loop, I need to play more of it. It's such an interesting universe and such an interesting kind of premise that I would like to dive into a bit more. But yeah, go and check out that interview. Also, on a final note of news that went up on the website over the last week, Wingspan. Speaking of Wingspan, it showed up on Coronation Street of all things, the British soap.
Yep.
Matt Thrower tracked down the episode's writer to find out how it ended up being literally like kind of a key thing in one scene. It's discussed out loud by two of the characters.
They mentioned
one of them's like
specific gameplay mechanics from
Wingspan. And they're reading the rule book at the time. It's more than just on the shelf in the background of a shot. It's wild.
Yeah.
So yeah, go and check that out because it's entertaining. It's kind of an interesting look into how these things end up appearing in big mainstream soaps like Corey.
Yeah.
So
it
was really cool.
My mum used to watch Coronation Street religiously. And even she has now stopped. And I'm wondering, like, who is simultaneously a Coronation Street fan and a Wingspan fan? You know, like
the episode's writer. That's who.
But
I think again, like we were just saying, Wingspan sold over 1 million copies now.
Mm-hmm.
It's broken through to that kind of level of public awareness beyond just people that play board games.
Yeah,
you know. So yeah, and it's nice to see a game that isn't just Catan again or D&D appear on a TV show. So long may it continue. Let's get Root onto EastEnders next, or you know,
much
like
darker, grittier look at Wingspan.
Yeah, no. Here's what I want to happen. I want Phil Mitchell to like kick the door down to his mum's pub.
Yeah.
And he's yelling. And they're like, "Why is it Phil? What do you want?
What's going on,
Phil? And he just stops and smiles, and from behind him he rings, "Do you want to play Betrayal at House on the Hill?" And then there you go.
That seems more like an advert than an episode of a TV show. But...
And then, yeah, he turns to the camera. He turns to the camera and just goes.
What I'd prefer is if they like brought back Phil Mitchell's Oddest Men, the TV show where they try and find the oddest man in Britain. And then one of the challenges was they had to play Betrayal without.
They had to play like Eldritch Horror.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Can you beat Eldritch Horror? I bet you know.
Yeah.
That must be like Danny Dyer's on one of those, and I want Danny Dyer to walk up to someone, like to be hosting one of those programs where it's like, is the honest blokes in Britain, but walk up and then just like happy salmon with one of them.
I'm Danny Dyer. Today I'm meeting the man who's got the hardest happy salmon in Britain.
What I want to happen is Danny Dyer going, "Now brace yourselves. We're about to meet one of the hardest men in Britain." And he goes and he opens the door to your house, Matt Jarvis.
Yes.
And you're sat there.
Yeah.
Oh my god, if Danny Dyer burst into my house, I would be terrified.
Oh my god, it's Danny Dyer's daughter, Danny Dyer's dad, Danny Dyer.
Right, Matthew Jarvis, lead us in today's segment.
Yeah, you set up a tangent out of that, and then we immediately trampled over it with Danny Dyer talk. But maybe the most unexpected news of this week, at least in board game terms, was that there is a 3rd edition of Betrayal at House on the Hill coming out. So Avalon Hill, which publishes Betrayal at House on the Hill, just snuck out a small teaser video on the Hasbro Pulse YouTube channel. So I believe
we're all
Hasbro
watching
Pulse...
the Hasbro Pulse YouTube channel.
I still want to do,
No,
well,
I'm hooked in.
I might be speaking out of turn, but I think Hasbro Pulse is related to the crowdfunding stuff that Hasbro does. So it's how it crowdfunded Hero Quest, the new version of Hero Quest. So it might hint that Betrayal at House on the Hill 3rd edition will be crowdfunded in some way, but that hasn't been confirmed. Neither is anything about the game, because they just put out a small teaser that was like, "Ooh, Betrayal at House on the Hill 3rd edition."
They should have hired me to do that.
They should have. They missed it.
Cowards. They're on the list as well. Then
So yeah,
Chalamet, as they're all judges.
Mm-hmm.
Werner Herzog for playing Timothy Chalamet.
But it's interesting because I think the 2nd edition of Betrayal at House on the Hill must be at least 10 years ago now. Like, it's a good long while ago, and even the one expansion that game has had must be 5 years old now. I think it was like 2017, 2016 kind of time. Widow's Walk. Obviously, we've had Betrayal Legacy in the time since. Which is a completely different game, turns into a legacy game, is very good. I think is probably the best Betrayal game if you're looking to play Betrayal. But Betrayal at House on the Hill remains a favourite. And yeah, they haven't put a date on it, so we don't know if it'll be this year. Like I say, we don't know if it'll be crowdfunded first and then it might come out next year. But it is apparently on the way.
I just want to say, here's my dream.
Mm-hmm.
They get Betrayal 3rd edition.
Mm-hmm.
They add Widow's Walk to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they add some new hordes as well, and maybe a new area, better miniatures. There you go.
All in one box, ready to roll. Better Miniatures is also one of my picks because I'm looking at this article. It's a beautiful article that Chase put together, and there's the thumbnail that Alex Lowley's made for the Let's Play that we did of Betrayal. And it makes me physically sick seeing these models. They are some of the most disgusting wargame models I've ever seen.
The miniatures look, the characters in the miniatures are Betraying. They look like they're melting. Like
and they're very bendy.
Yeah,
they flex over backwards, and they always look like they're doing the limbo. I just
don't want anything to do with them anymore. Just get them out of here. Get them out of here. However, what I really don't want, is for them to make a miniature for every single thing that you could possibly encounter.
No.
Because that is just such a plague in board games where it's like, oh, this monster that's features in one scenario for 20 seconds, got to have a miniature for it. It's got to take up 40% of the box.
There are too many, like, potential scenarios in that game for them to do that. It would cost £1,000 if they did that.
And I think one of the best things about original Betrayal and Legacy is that you have the main characters who are miniatures, and then you just have a pot of tokens that you use to represent everything else. And some of them will just say like Frankenstein's monster, and then others will just say like plant. And it's just because there are so many wild and strange haunts in that game. Like it's the thing about Betrayal, right? It's like there are 50 in the original game, there's 50 in the expansion. So even outside of Legacy, which is a kind of thing in itself, you've got like 100 different permutations of different horror stories. And some of them are like, go and find some hidden treasure in the basement, or run away from this mummy. And some of them are like, you've all been shrunk, and there's a gigantic cat, and it's trying to eat you, and you need to get to a toy plane to escape.
I've just had the most wonderful idea for a game jam where you grab all the tokens from Betrayal, you mix them up in a bag, and deal out as many as you're brave enough, and then you have to make a scenario out of the materials that you've been given. Make it happen, someone. Itch.io, let's go.
Another change I would like to see would be the little boards you get for your characters. When you have to put those stupid little clips on them to monitor your different stats, those things always fall off.
Yeah.
They always scuff the player boards. They're a pain in the butt to put on. Just make ones where they're permanently stuck on. Why do you need to take them off?
So I think there was a reply to a tweet from Avalon Hill where they indicated that would be one of the changes.
Thank God.
It's just about the only thing that they've indicated will be different in the box. But yeah, I think they did change them somewhat for Legacy, and I think there is an upgrade kit, but that stuff should just be default in the box. You know, you shouldn't be needing to put out basically a patch afterwards that people have to pay a few quid for. But they were never good.
Patches, man, I swear to God.
Yeah, like you said, they either stripped off the printing of the edges, or they would just slide off, and it would be impossible to track anything. It was a nightmare.
But here's the fun thing that we were talking about this for.
Here's the fun thing. We decided for this segment to celebrate Betrayal at House on the Hill getting a new edition, a game that we like very much. We would come up with some haunts that we would like to see in a new Betrayal game. I'll be honest, I can't remember all 100 of the... I've played quite a lot of Betrayal, but I can't remember all of the haunts that are in there. So there's a good chance we'll tread over some already trodden ground, but I'm sure we can come up with something. And hey, if you're in the chat, let us know what you'd like to see in there as well, because you can basically just pick the horror film of your choice, file off the serial numbers, and then it will appear in Betrayal at House on the Hill.
And if you're not in the chat, every Friday, 2 p.m. GMT, we live stream our recording of the podcast, and you can join in, you can ask us questions and all that kind of stuff. So come on down and join us. But I've got the hiccups.
Please put your suggestions in the chat, and any questions you might have. We're already getting a few in.
Yep.
Truce says Moon's Haunted.
Moon's Haunted is a great one.
Moon's Haunted, isn't that just Bloodborne?
Yeah. It's also just a Twitter meme, but it comes with a free shotgun, I hope, so you can cock it when you say the scenario name. And that means one player gets to play as the moon.
Whoa!
That's a really big token.
Yeah. It's like that Galactus miniature we had to talk about.
You have to get a load of whipped cream and then put your face in a big bowl of whipped cream.
I'm the moon. Yeah, sorry, it took me a while to get that. We've got Getting Haunted by a Dead Angry Pet, says Angel Pete. again, filing those serial numbers off.
Yeah.
Bruce.
I've got
one scale
moon model provided. It's just shared. You can only play with it at night. Right.
What were you going to say, Wills? Wills,
yeah,
go.
I don't know if this is funny, but I've got an idea.
It's never stopped us before.
No, it
Wills.
has not. So I'm imagining the this is a haunt that you can only really play once, because afterwards you'll realise it's just a dumb joke. But the idea is, right, the house is in Germany in this scenario. It's on the river, and it's like in the basement area. There's a new tile that you get out, and it's called the quarry, right? Because there's been like a sort of mining operation underneath the house, where they've been like, you know, lifting rocks and precious materials and stuff, and they keep digging deeper and deeper, and you keep getting new tiles that you have to lay out and lay out and lay out, and it becomes this like super long tunnel that you have to go down to try and find the end. And then when you finally emerge at the end, you're in a spooky American town, spooky American Wild West town. You've traveled through some kind of portal to the realm of the Rhinestone Cowboys.
Yep, that was that was a thing. You just waited.
Yeah, I don't know why that was in my head, but
To be fair, I'd take it. Like,
Yeah,
I don't think
Spooky
there's like any kind of
let's
like
make it
cowboy or
semi-serious now.
Wild
Spooky
West.
Cowboys, yeah. Spooky
Yeah.
Cowboys is not something that I've seen
I mean,
in the box.
A
Deadlands.
Deadlands crossover, yeah.
No, I'm not saying Spooky Cowboys has never been done before. I'm saying it's not in the
Oh no.
in the box. Thank you for the
I don't
tumbleweeds,
think it-
Andy Horton. I assume they're there for thematic purposes. So yeah, like I don't know. Okay, let's think of like I like the idea of everyone's very upset with me. I like the idea of like some kind of mirror realm, maybe where like maybe you actually get like a mirror and you place it next to the board, and like by looking at things backwards on the tiles, you can figure out some kind of puzzle or something. That'd be fun.
Was it? I want to say I've seen a horror film that involves mirrors. Is it Oculus with Karen Gillan?
Oh no, they make those.
I can't
for your
remember if
headsets,
that's what
I
it
think.
is, but
That's-
I think mirrors are always a good one. There's actually a Mansions of Madness scenario. I think in one of maybe the last expansion that involves mirrors, and it's really interesting because you can then pass through the mirrors, and it's like a flipped version of the world.
Yeah, I love that.
That's always
that
cool.
would be cool.
Big
That would be
into
cool.
mirror
Yeah,
horror.
like it's the case of if you do one thing, if you do something in one dimension, when you go into the other dimension, it will be reflected in that. So like if you manage to open this door in this dimension, when you go into the other dimension, that door has now also been opened. So it's like, oh, you can solve puzzles that way.
And as you put down the tiles, you could even, if there are two of each, you can mirror it, and then it's like a fun twist on the exploration.
What if there was like a sort of shadow version of each of the player characters that were controlled by the Haunt Master or whatever they're called?
I think that is a haunt.
Is
in
it?
the
God damn
original?
it.
Like in,
this is
I'm
the
pretty
problem.
Yeah, there have been a lot of them.
pretty sure in Betrayal there is a haunt where you have to basically fight a version of yourself.
Yeah,
Like
that sounds
that.
familiar,
It's
yeah.
a
Like
good
Shadow Link.
idea.
Shadow Link, yeah.
I've got one. I don't know how you would do it. You'd need detachable models or something, or tokens.
Dismemberment.
The player characters are they are split into like head, limbs, and torso across the house, but each then gains sentience and moves independently. And the idea is you have to try and come back together to reform your body.
I like that.
But the traitor is trying to stop you from doing it. And they're maybe trying to form like a new
Homunculus.
person out of spare parts of the others.
Once you and it could be affected in your stats or something.
Yeah.
So like
yeah,
if every bit that you get back, you get that bit of your stat back or something. So
or they can steal your stats. So like
or they can steal it by
Master gets like the smartest person's head. They get the best head stat or brain stat, or whatever it is. Not head stat. Yeah.
A quick correction. Thank you, God Convoy. Hasbro Pulse is where they basically announce big things, including crowdfunding projects, but also just like collector's editions and like bigger products. HasLab is the crowdfunding part of it, so it's kind of linked to it, but I was wrong in saying that it's just the crowdfunding part. So thank you for
real good
clarifying
at that branding, aren't
Mm.
they?
HasLab.
Chris Love
Alex Meehan.
says. Chris Love says you try to convince your friends your house is haunted. You got to survive a comedy of errors. Maybe everyone dies.
Oh, geez. So kind of like a haunted house, like a ghost tunnel, not ghost tunnel. It's like
it could be like
the one that leads to the spooky cafes.
Yeah, it could be like spoilers for oh my god, what is the film that's basically a riff on horror films?
Scary movie.
Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods, yeah.
Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah. Spoiler, Cabin in the Woods. Reclaimed Denizen says Evil Dead. That's actually a good pick. I saw Evil Dead 2 last year for the first time. That film is
man, I love Evil Dead 2 so
yeah,
much.
it's great.
Is that
It's
the
so
medieval
stupid.
one?
No, that's Evil Dead 3.
That's Evil Dead
The
3.
Evil Dead 2 is the one, like the one that most people watch. They don't really bother with Evil Dead 1. But Evil Dead 2 is when he's in the house, the cabin, and then things are just going everywhere. Like there is a dead deer head on the wall that tries to eat him. There are things in the basement that try to kill him.
Oh, Benjamin Dean just said
Sam Raimi at his best. Clue's
yeah.
good.
The
Yeah.
idea that whoever becomes the haunt person is now dead, and everyone has to solve their murder. Like it becomes like a what happened? Who killed them?
Mysterium.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Mysterium, yeah.
That would be pretty cool, actually. Yeah, just like they can direct you or like nudge you in the right directions, but they can't tell you which room to go in specifically.
There are co-op ones like in Betrayal, but there aren't really co-op ones where someone is playing as like a different person.
Yeah, I think the only co-op one I can think of is the treasure one, right? Where you have to try and find treasure.
There's quite a few. They're usually the worst ones, though. To be honest, they're usually ones where you fight a giant monster or something. Or I think there's a spider one that might be that, like where you fight spiders or something. And they're usually the least interesting because they feel like they've had the least amount of effort put into them. But yeah, for my pick, it would be so obviously the last few years indie horror games have gotten really popular. So there's loads of various ideas that Betrayal could take. And I've played a lot of Forewarned and Phasmophobia. What about one where you have to like collect different clues to like figure out, I don't know, there's like a table for this particular haunt and like it randomly generates what it is. And then you need to correct like the correct clues to guess what the thing is, and then when you do, you win and escape the house.
Yeah,
so like you're like, I'm gonna find this item, a ghost box, for example, and go and try and use it in the different rooms of the house to try and see if they respond to that or something like that. And then the person who's playing the ghost or whatever has opportunities to try and hunt you down and stop you.
And they've like rolled on a table to pick a random ghost, and they have the stats that they have to say yes or no to and stuff. I think that's a cool idea. I think Phasmo would be a really easy board game tie-in, by the way. Like if anyone's thinking about doing it. I will say I like the idea from Truth as well that says, what about just using that Silent Hill ending with the dog? Where it's revealed that the entire game has been the brainchild of a Shiba Inu that's just pulling levers in the background. Alrighty. Should we answer some more questions before we shoot off?
We could do. I haven't pulled any from the chat, so if you've pulled some,
fantastic. If anyone's got some, questions for us in the live chat, let us know. You can also
drop them in now, and I'll fill for a few minutes by saying I have another whole idea that popped into my mind, which is I watched Spencer recently, which is the film about Diana from Paolo Lorraine, I think, who did Jackie, which is also a good film. And I'm not a fan of the royal family, but I found it really interesting to watch because neither is that film. and it's basically Kristen Stewart, who's very good as Diana, basically trying to avoid the whole royal family the whole time, because it's after Prince Charles's infidelity has been revealed. So she's just like trying to just stay away from them. And I think there would be something fun in a Betrayal at House on the Hill haunt, where you are just trying to avoid family members that are just like toxic family members.
House,
like,
so you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you have to find excuses to leave constantly to go into a different room.
I mean, there's a retro video game that I am always fascinated by called Clock Tower, which was released on the SNES many years ago, and it's really ahead of its time. It's really cool, and it's a game where you have to play this young woman who's been adopted. She's an orphan. She's been adopted with several other orphans. This house by a mysterious and very kind benefactor, only to discover that actually it's not as innocent and lovely as it seems. And there is a murderer hiding in the house trying to kill you. And you have to basically go between the different rooms of the house, finding various items and clues you need to complete the game. But it's randomly generated. So like the various pieces appear in random areas of the house. And also there are certain events that will happen depending on where you go when. So I imagine maybe they could do something like that where you're working together against a killer, and the killer can basically use a hidden set of like tunnels to like appear in different places and try and trigger these events. But
yeah, that's a good idea. There was, I think Widow's Walk did introduce the what's it called? Like the lift that you send food up and down in. The dumbwaiter. Yeah.
The dumbwaiter. I thought the dumbwaiter was included. Oh no, it might have been the Widow's Walk thing. Yeah.
Isn't there
I wasn't sure if that was a core game thing.
No,
it is the dumbwaiter is a Widow's Walk thing. The Widow's Walk is at the attic and the dumbwaiter. And the new haunts as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like the campaign, which is like the witches something, which where they all link together and then you unlock them at the end. It's cool. I really like Widow's Walk. I feel like it was vastly overlooked.
I love Widow's Walk. I honestly think it's one of the best expansions like you can get. Like what it adds to that game is just fantastic.
Here's
like,
a
and the haunts in there is source.
Here's a sort of segue, because one of our questions that we've been asked by Troost, who has been a Dicebreaker Plus member for 6 months now, thank you very much, Troost, is I don't know if this has been asked before, but what spin-off games are better than the original? I'd be arguing for Monopoly Deal. And I know that we're talking about an expansion there, but spin-off, expansion, they're in the similar realms. So that is our first question of the day. What spin-off games are much better than the original from our member Troost? I think the only like spin-off game that I can remember playing and really liking, like better than the original, is Bang the Dice game. And that is literally just like they took Bang and they were like, what if we made this just better? And then
agreed,
just made it dice based. And like I think there is definitely a case of you try and reinvent something just for like a fun sort of spin-off, and then it ends up just being a better game than the original. Monopoly Deal's a really good example as well. I know Matt Jarvis constantly talking about Monopoly Deal, how much he likes it.
Yeah, I wrote a thing for the site about exactly that, and I think like Monopoly, plenty has been said on Monopoly the original, but I think Deal actually understands kind of it's weird, right? It takes the worst things about that game and focuses on them, but it somehow then flips it to make it fun, because there's not the long drawn out pretending that it's anything other than that. It is just like brutal, like capitalist, like I'm charging you millions in rent and just forcing you into bankruptcy. So in some ways it goes back to what Monopoly was originally about as the landlord's game. And also it takes like 10 minutes, so you're not playing for like 4 hours. Yeah. So
someone say Seven Wonders.
No one says that. I mean, I would have picked Bang as well. Either Bang the dice game, or I actually like the Resistance Avalon more than the Resistance.
Yeah, that's a great shout.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that.
I think the roles are more interesting.
I've got
like
here as well. getting attacked.
Because with the resistance, they don't have those specific roles. They just kind of have the good guys and the bad guys. Whereas Avalon, they add all these like hidden roles with like abilities to the game as well, which just spices it up a bit more. So yeah, I'll probably say the Resistance Avalon.
It's a good answer.
Yeah,
it's a very good answer.
Meehan,
Hello.
would you like to read this next question from Sam Pauly?
Yeah, betrayal related question.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever my group plays it, we reach a point where we get so confused by the rules of the haunt that we open both books and try to make sense of it together. Is that normal?
Yeah.
No.
I've had this before.
I'd say
I've
with
had
some
this
haunts
before,
that is, yeah.
Sometimes, like, because the problem is because you've got one person who then is in charge of learning the rules for the like, you know, the baddie side. Sometimes they'll go off and they'll just be like, I don't understand, which kind of like kills the idea of hidden information and stuff because they're just like, I need help. But I think it's because I tend to play a lot of games with people who don't really play board games very often.
That like specific scenario where you read the rule book and you're like, okay, I don't quite understand this particular mechanic or this particular keyword or whatever. I feel like there are ways of asking someone about those things without giving away what you need to do. Like, I think if you're like discreet about it and just be like, what does mean? Like, maybe say, what does the keyword mean? And they might be like, oh, it means you need to do this. Like, or it means you need to put this thing there. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. But you can keep the general sort of I know what you need to do. It's still like a secret. Go on, Matt.
There are definitely. It's one of the things I like about that game, but also one of it. I think its flaws and one of the things that does frustrate people is, the rules can be very loose and vague at points, which I think is fun in some ways because it kind of just leaves it open and it means that it moves quite quickly. The basics of moving between rooms and doing stuff, but it does then mean that when it layers other stuff on top, you can just find yourself in positions like, is this part of the haunt? Is this part of like the normal rules? Like, which book am I looking at here? Is it in the Traitor's Tome or is it in Secrets of Survival? Is it in the main rule book? So yeah, it keeps things vague in a way that sometimes can be a little bit too loose and things fall between the cracks. But yeah,
it is messy.
If you're finding yourself kind of like hitting these points, like I wouldn't worry too much about it. Like ultimately, if you're having fun, that's the main thing, right? It's like it doesn't matter if you look at both books because it's probably not really going to spoil loads. It's not like a major secret a lot of the time about how to win.
I do think one of the big improvements they could make in this next edition is just rewriting that bloody rulebook. Like,
well, that's what I mean. Betrayal Legacy did a lot of that work, so I would hope because it also changed the way that dice rolls work with the haunts, and I think it's much better. So hopefully a lot of that just carries over. I'll read this final one from Reclaim Dazen. To what extent do you think of the use of mathematics to examine games? The Nintendogs. Not a comparison I expected. To that extent, do you see games as a fun way to waste time, a simulation, or something else entirely? Thank you for your question.
I'm a little bit confused about what
I'm a tiny bit
confused. I think what they're asking is people who look at games very mathematically when they are playing them. So like, here's the probability of like drawing the certain card, or if I move here, like dice rolls and things like that. Like really kind of breaking down into the hard numbers behind it. And I think some people enjoy that stuff. For me, that's not why I play games. I play games to have a fun time and not think too hard about that. Like I play by gut most of the time.
So I think I agree with you in that sense, Matt, but there are very certain scenarios where I think like a little bit of like breaking down the odds of things happening is actually really fun. Where it's just like, you know, if you think of something like Pandemic, where it's like, okay, we just put 4 cards on top and we know that like 2 of them would cause an outbreak. So we've got a 50% chance of this door screwing up. You know, like just those really simple equations where it's just like, okay, how likely are we to pull this off? You know, like how close are we to actually being destroyed? Because then when it doesn't go wrong, you know, you're like, oh my God, we only had a 1 in 4, all that kind of stuff, which is really fun. But I think I agree, like most of the time I try to avoid that kind of full picking apart min-maxing stuff. So just, first of all,
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to do it, but second of all, I just
Yeah.
it just doesn't really interest me.
That's not really how I play games either. Like strategy games, I will obviously a lot of the basis of strategy games is trying to look ahead to determine, like, is my opponent going to do this, or do I think they're going to try and do something else, and how can I anticipate that? And even games like Camel Up have like a probability element of like determining, oh, should I take this card or do I bet on this camel? But yeah, that kind of numbers way, like numbers and I don't really get along as it is. Let alone like playing games like that kind of thing often like stresses me out, where there are games. It's why I can be very cautious towards certain Euro games when they're like very geared towards that kind of thinking of efficiency is like everything, and if you aren't efficient, you just cannot.
Matt Jarvis container games, you mean?
Do this game. Yeah, container game.
Look, container is not one of those games because it's all driven by people. It's driven by the people around the table, and those are my like to kind of answer the second part of this, like being games as like a fun way to waste time, a simulation, or something else. I think the great thing about games is they can be all of those things depending on the game. Like there are war games that are like very simulationist, and for people who are into that stuff, like that's great. You know, if you want to count individual arrows in a fantasy game, there'll be a game that lets you do that. But there are also games that are very much like theatre of the mind and focus around storytelling and social interaction. And those tend to be where I find more of the fun. Like I like games that, like you were saying, is like build in parts of the probability, but make it easy enough for everyone to understand. Because I think, you know, cards that say like there are like Love Letter tells you exactly how many of each card are in the deck, and there's only 14 cards, so it's fairly easy to keep track of what's out. But I think games that then try to like people that come at it and like, well, I can just spend 2 hours analyzing this and it means that I'll win every time. Like that's, you know, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. If everyone around the table was happy with that, that's fine. But I think that can sometimes just like kill the atmosphere of a game. Like they're better in motion, right? It's like you can write a really interesting article about probability in something, but when you're playing it around a table, that's probably not the time for that.
Speaking of not the time, I think we are coming up to the end of our podcast. So
we are. Yeah, let's call it there. Thank you again, Michael Whelan, for being here.
That's all right. I've got
thank you, Alex Meehan.
Ominous liquid on me that Toto has put on.
Ominous liquid.
I'm not sure what it is. That's why I'm like, let's maybe end this podcast so I can go wash my hands.
The name
Alex
of
Meehan,
the betrayal horn
here.
I'm gonna make is ominous liquid. Yeah.
But yes, thank you for joining us, Alex Meehan. I've been Matt Jarvis. Thank you for watching. If you've been in the chat, we will be back live as usual next Friday from 2 p.m. GMT. I will hopefully have internet. That doesn't mean that this is very awkward and stilted. We'll see. Join us next week to find out.
Otherwise, subscribe to the channel.
Hell yeah. Go on down to Dicebreaker.com.
Join Dicebreaker Plus. We literally recorded a video for it today. It was very exciting and fun.
It was good fun. It was really good fun.
The bell to get notifications and the like button, and then go to Dicebreaker.com to read really good articles.
Yes, do all of that, but most importantly, stay safe out there. Look after yourselves. Look after those around you. And we will be back this same time next Friday. But until then, have a lovely day.
Bye.
Goodbye.